Welcome to the Resilient Retail Game Plan, a podcast for anyone wanting to start, grow or scale a profitable creative product business with me, Catherine Eardley. The Resilient Retail Game Plan is a podcast dedicated to one thing, breaking down the concepts and tools that I've gathered from 20 years in the retail industry and showing you how you can use them in your business. This is the real nuts and bolts of running a successful product business, broken down in an easy, accessible way. This is not a podcast about learning how to make your business look good. It's the tools and techniques that will make you and your business feel good. Confidently plan, launch and manage your products, and feel in control of your sales numbers and cash flow to help you build a resilient retail business. Hello and welcome to this episode of the Resilient Retail Game Plan. Thank you so much for listening. My name is Catherine Eardley and I'm your host as well as the founder of the Resilient Retail Club. The Resilient Retail Club is my membership group for creative product businesses and you can find out more at resilientretailclub.com. Also, if you're listening to this in January 2021, I want to invite you to join my free 5-day challenge. It is called Plan Your Year. So if you're listening to this episode all about planning, then chances are it'll be perfect for you. If you visit resilientretailclub.com/challenge, you'll find a link that will take you through to the page to sign up. I also just like to say before we get into this episode that I'm currently having work done in my garden, plus my entire family at home, as I'm sure most of yours are too. So if you hear any noises in the background, then don't blame my wonderful podcast editor, just blame all of the busyness that's going on around me. So how are you doing? Second week of 2021, and a lot of us have been thrown a major curveball in terms of a national lockdown, in terms of homeschooling. So it may seem to you that this episode about planning is a little bit of an odd one in terms of how can you plan when the world is so crazy. But there are some really, really good reasons for you to have a planning process in your product business. First off, a great phrase that I love is that a goal without a plan is just a wish. So in other words, if you have objectives, things that you want to achieve for your business, then having a plan to help you hit that goal will be hugely helpful, as opposed to just hoping that you're going to make this happen. Planning, it's in my nature. It's what I've done for so many years. I'm a natural born planner. And this episode is dedicated to that planning process. And I just want to share with you a few of my ideas about why it's so important, how you can approach it, your annual planning process, and really how does the planning process help you even when you have these crazy changes and shifts and you're juggling so many different things, just like so many of us are. Because I think the important thing that I'd love you to take away from this is that, as I said, even if the reality of what you can achieve in your business is very different from what you're planning, still going through the planning process is really valuable. Another great phrase that I love is that plans are useless, but planning is priceless. So what does that mean? Well, plans are useless because things happen all the time, just like they've happened to us in 2021. All of a sudden, when you think you're finally going to be able to knuckle down and get on with some real work for the business, then all of a sudden you're back into homeschooling. And this kind of thing, okay, this is a very dramatic and major shift, but this kind of thing does happen all the time. So you can have a plan, but you do have to have a certain amount of flexibility around it. And it doesn't mean that it's not worth going through the process of really thinking about your business and what you want to achieve and how you want to achieve it. That process is priceless no matter of the outcome. So in my membership group, the Resilient Retail Club, we are working to a 4-quarter pattern this year. So in 2021, we've got a different theme for each quarter. And the first quarter, the theme for the whole 3 months is planning. And again, the reason that I made it a focus for an entire quarter is that it just is such an important process and it's so important in your business. But the planning process, it can cover lots of different elements, which is why really the reason that I gave it a full 3 months focus within the club. There are lots of different aspects to it. You can have your overall goals. You can have sales plans. So if you're interested in the sales planning process, then I invite you to take a look at episode 10 of the Resilient Retail Game Plan podcast, which goes into this in a lot more detail. Or in fact, come join the free challenge, signing up at resilientretailclub.com/challenge. We're going to be talking a lot more about the sales planning process during that 5-day challenge. And then stock planning is what feeds in from that. So that is episode 5 of the Resilient Retail Game Plan. I go into a lot more detail about stock planning. And in fact, that is going to be one of the workshops that we have within the Resilient Retail Club, and a lot of the content that we have in the course portals all about stock planning as well. So I guess you could say it breaks down into sort of 3 steps. You have your overall goals. That breaks down to a more detailed sales plan, and that allows you to break down to a stock plan. And if you've heard me talk about stock planning before, then you know that I believe that it's one of the ways that you can really maximize your chances of success in your creative product business by managing your stock effectively. So I suppose you could say that it's hard for you to get to the stock plan, which is really crucial for your cash flow and for your overall business management, without going through the process of setting your overall goals, but making a sales plan and then making a stock plan. So today we're going to start with then the top piece of that funnel, if you like, the overall goals. You could therefore sum it up as saying that it's important for you to have overall goals for your business, because that's really what allows you to break down and make these more detailed plans, which is what helps you manage it more effectively. And setting overall goals, personally, this is one of my very favorite things to do. I absolutely love doing it with my one-to-one clients. I love talking to people in the membership about their goals and their plans for their business, because I think when people think about the planning process, they think about it as being rigid, but actually I think it is hugely, hugely creative. It's a creative process to think about where you are now and where you want to go, and then therefore working back and thinking about the steps that you need to get where you want to go. A goal without a plan is just a wish. So planning is really a way of you working out the way in which you can achieve what you want, which is very exciting. Personally, as I said, for my own business and for my clients' businesses, there's nothing I enjoy more than thinking about where I want to go, where I want to be, where they want to be, what's their vision for their business. And therefore, that's why I'm a big fan of the planning process. And when better to think about the planning process than at the beginning of the year? You can think about your plans at any point, but there's something really powerful about starting off your year with a really good look at where you are and where you want to go. So now I'm just going to talk you through a few steps to help you set your overall goals. The first thing you really want to look at is, where are you now? So what does your current situation look like? The easiest format, or the most useful format I have for that, is a SWOT analysis: strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. You could try threads if you like. But so a SWOT analysis, it's very well known. You may well have used it previously in a previous life or previous career. What's so useful about a SWOT analysis is that it allows you to brainstorm, or it allows you to get all of your ideas down on paper, but in a really nice format, in a kind of organized way. So it's very easy to do. Take a piece of A4 paper, fold it in half again. You've got 4 quarters. You can write strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats at the top of each of those segments, and then you can just start writing it down. You can work through section by section, so all of your strengths first, and then moving on to weaknesses, or as I like to call them, opportunities for development. Think about your opportunities and think about your threats. Or you can just start writing down whatever's in your head so that you can just start getting everything out there and putting it down, but in an organized way. I really like to start with a positive, so start thinking about your strengths. This is also a really good opportunity for you to step back and pat yourself on the back for a job well done. I can't tell you the number of times that I talk to people, whether that's clients or members of the group or other small business owners, and they just have got so caught up in the day-to-day that it takes stepping back and looking at how they've performed in the last year, particularly if you look at actually what they did in 2020 compared to 2019. And then that's the point at which they go, wow, actually, you know what? I did really, really well. But because they're so caught up in it, or maybe they've got caught up in comparing themselves to other people, or maybe they've got caught up in where they maybe haven't hit some goals that they wanted to hit, that they haven't recognized actually everything that's gone well. And it's really important for you to tap into everything that's gone well, because that's what gives you energy as a business owner. That's what gives you the confidence, and that's what helps you grow. So start off with all of your strengths. Write down the things that worked. Write down the products that people really responded to. Write down the social media accounts or channels that worked really well for you. Write down about the posts that worked really well, the partnerships that you formed that did well, the things that were a real improvement, as well as anything that you're just really proud of. Did you get a mention by somebody that you really admire? Did you get a piece of press coverage that you were really proud of? Did you push yourself out of your comfort zone and actually you did an Instagram live for the first time ever, and that was a really big deal for you? Make sure that you capture all of these things so that you can really reflect on what you did well and take that time, because that's the irony. We start businesses because we want to be our own boss and we don't want to have a boss. But actually, sometimes you miss that annual review. So think of this as your annual review. If you were sitting down with yourself and going through and talking about what you did well, then it's really important for you to capture that so that you can feel your confidence and your self-belief as a business owner growing. On to weaknesses. Again, not a huge fan of that title. I prefer areas of improvement. And this is just a place for you not to, by any means, beat yourself up or feel bad about these things, but just to acknowledge the things that you did that didn't work, the things that you tried that people didn't respond to, or maybe the response was okay, but it cost you money that you didn't think it was worth. Just generally anything that you did that you're a little bit not even disappointed as much as you just recognize maybe didn't work as well as possible. But it's important that you don't get stuck in this section and use it as an excuse to, as I said, wallow in self-criticism, because the truth is that everybody makes a lot of mistakes as they're building their business. That's just the truth, and that's how we learn. But the important thing is that we do learn from it and we don't repeat them, rather than that we make ourselves feel terrible. Opportunities, I love this one. This is where you get to really have that blue sky thinking. Just what do you want to do? What could you do? And allow yourself to really explore some ideas. It may even be something that you want to do almost as a separate exercise, but just thinking about your opportunities, where you can take the business, what you're excited about. And then threats. I call these the 3 a.m. thoughts. These are the things that maybe keep you up. What are your threats to your business right now? Is it your own energy? Is it your ability to grow it, but also look after yourself? Are there lots of competitors coming into your particular niche? Do you serve a particular market that maybe will be going through some changes that you're concerned whether they'll still want to buy from you? All of those sorts of things are going on. So just capture them. It doesn't mean you have to necessarily do anything about it right yet, unless it's a really direct and urgent threat, but it helps you understand. So for example, if you have a physical premises or you have been reliant on physical sales, obviously one of the threats has been the continued rolling closures and lockdowns rather. So it's definitely worth you recognizing that footfall remains low for the rest of the year. So then you can start thinking about what you can do about that instead, where you can maybe divert some more of your attention and resources. But again, the threats section is not for you to make yourself feel bad. It's for you to capture some of those things that are maybe niggling at the back of your head, and also just try and be a little bit forward thinking so that things don't sneak up on you. So once you have completed the SWOT analysis, then hopefully, especially with the opportunities section and the strengths section, it's been giving you some thoughts about what you want to do, what you want to achieve. And then really, it's nice to just think really top line about your goals. Where do you want to be? There's a great exercise you can do where you can think 20 years in the future and work back to decide how you would want to describe your business journey from a great distance in the future, where you want to take your business long term. Or it could just be in the next 12 months. What is a number, for example, a turnover number or a profit number that you really want to aim for? What is a goal that you want for the business? Where do you want the business to be in a year? And then how would you describe that goal? So, for example, it may be that you say, I want to grow my sales by 50%, but I want to do it in a way that allows me to meet some of my life goals. So, for example, I'm determined this year that I'm going to hit my step count every day. So that means, in a way, making breaks during the day to go out for a walk and things like that, which sounds like a small thing, but actually part of your goal setting, it doesn't have to all be about the business. sometimes it can be about the business and how it interacts with your life. So for example, you could say, I want to hit 50% revenue increase, but I don't want to work evenings and weekends. Or I want to double my sales, but I don't want to be the person who's dispatching everything all the time. What is it that you want the business to look like? And more importantly, in a way, what do you want the business to feel like in a year? How do you want to feel about your business? Which, again, might sound like a bit of a airy-fairy concept to talk about when you're talking about goal setting. But actually, I think it's important because ultimately our businesses will fail if they don't make us happy. I really believe that. I think that we have to think about our energy as business owners and what motivates us and what makes us excited. And if we don't take care of that, we could end up creating basically another job, and a job that we don't like the conditions of. So it's really important that you ask yourself these questions and say, what do I want the business to look like? What do I want it to feel like? The other thing that I would say is really important about this process is that you really listen carefully to what it is that you want, and not what you think you should want, not what other people want, and definitely not what other people say that you should be doing. So for example, one of the questions that comes up often is the whole idea of a lifestyle brand versus a larger scale brand. So particularly some of my one-to-one clients who are experiencing high growth, they will need to think carefully about what do they want the business to look like for them? What does success look like for them? Not what it looks like for other people or other small businesses that they may see, but what do they want? So for example, if the logical next step to double your business is to take on premises and employ people and outsource the making and all of this sort of thing, if you're a maker, for example. But the thought of that is just not what you want to keep doing the making yourself, then that's a really valuable thing for you to think about, because you could say, oh, well, of course I want to double my sales, but actually, why? Why do you need to think about doubling your sales if that's not what fits with your vision for the business? You could, for example, say, start with the premise that I want to keep making, but I want to be more profitable. And then that would lead you down a different path about reviewing your pricing or looking at the processes. That means that you could keep making, but you could outsource some of the other pieces. So when you set this idea of your goal for the year, don't just assume that you have to say, all right, I want to double my sales or I want to hit this particular turnover number. It's absolutely fine if you have a different vision of what success looks like. And I'm really passionate about that because I think we get sucked into this idea that bigger is always better. But actually, you can have a small profitable business and you can have a large unprofitable business. So it's not necessarily about the turnover or the scale or the number of people that you have. Often it's about what works for you. And maybe your goal for the year is you want to improve your profit, but you don't necessarily want to take on premises or do anything else. So on the flip side, it could be that actually what you think about is, I do want to double my sales. In fact, I want to triple my sales. In fact, I want to have a bigger unit and a larger team, and I want to be well known, and I want to get my products into all of these bigger retailers. And that's absolutely fine too. And that should be celebrated. And I absolutely salute the people who want to go for it. And I think you should do that. But all I'm saying is that when I say think about what you want for the business, the most important thing is what you want. So if you write down double your sales and you get a kick in the gut feeling, listen to that feeling and ask yourself, what does that mean? What am I concerned about? Sometimes it's just fear holding us back. So sometimes it could be that you can definitely manage people and definitely manage taking on premises because your business has grown. So it's useful to recognize, okay, well, that's fear holding me back. But sometimes it's actually your intuition saying, this is not right for me because I want my business to look like this. So that is a very long way of me saying that when you set your goal, really listen to your intuition. Your gut instinct is actually very, very accurate. There's a lot of research about people's inner voice, intuition, that we tend to dismiss, but is actually the culmination of our life's experience. And so it's always worth listening to. Okay, so once you have set this goal and you have made it something that is really exciting for you, that you really want to aim for, think about 3 to 5 goals, for example, that would help you hit your vision for your year. And again, those could be a mixture between personal goals and business goals. So for example, if you said, my goal is to double my turnover, but I don't want to work evenings and weekends, then some of your goals, if you had 5 goals, for example, some will relate to how you're going to drive that turnover. Is it going to be through more ads? Is it going to be through more social media engagement? Is it going to be through new product launches and new designs? Is it going to be through wholesale? Are you going to really focus on PR? There's lots of different ways you can really beef up your email marketing, for example. There's lots of different ways that you could go for hitting those goals. But then one of the goals could be I turn off my computer at 6 p.m. every night. And Friday I turn it off at 6 p.m. and I don't turn it back on until Monday morning. So that could be a goal. The 3 to 5 goals don't all have to be directly related to the business. They could be related to how you want to live your life. But it's definitely a good idea to make them SMART goals. If you've not heard of SMART goals before, it stands for specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-bound. So that means that if you say, I want to increase my revenue, that's a very vague goal. So what you would want to do is say specific, I would like to increase my revenue by 20%. Measurable, so it's measurable because you can put a cash number against that. Achievable and realistic. So it's saying, you could say I want to grow my sales by 500%, but is that achievable and realistic? That's for you to decide. And then time bound by the end of the year. So you go from saying, I want to grow my revenue to, I would like my revenue to increase by 20% by the 31st of December, 2021. So you go back through your goals and you make sure that they are SMART, specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, time-bound. And from that point, maybe you want to create a quarterly plan. A lot of people find a yearly plan overwhelming, but a 90-day plan can be really powerful. It helps you stay focused. So, for example, if one of your goals is going to be that you are going to really focus on PR, you might have in the first quarter, I would like to approach X number of publications. Or maybe you have to go back from that. You have to say, actually, I need to first create all my PR outreach documentation, or I need to join a membership that specializes in PR, or whatever it is that you need to do, and then set yourself goals about outreach. So that's a kind of quick rundown. First of all, do a SWOT analysis to really get a feel of where you are. Think about where you want to go. Create 3 to 5 goals to help you get there, and then break that back down to a quarterly plan. If you've got no idea, if you hear me say all this and you think, I just literally don't know, I would say start with a SWOT analysis, because the funny thing is, once you really tune into where you are at the business, I bet you it will start generating some ideas. But if you just still don't know where to start, just think about how you like to feel. Go back to that feeling. Think about this time next year, how do I want to feel about the business? And sometimes you can find a number that you can put against that. So some people will say, yes, I want to hit this number. That will make me feel proud and excited. It feels like a stretch, but not totally unrealistic. And I think the next thing I just want to say is you do have to be, especially now, especially in the current situation that we're in, be confident in what you can achieve. Also be realistic. So have belief, but recognize that you are a multifaceted person and you have to take into consideration other demands on your time. This is the other thing as well. Most of us are in this to run our businesses in the long term. So if now is not the year to go for crazy growth, I'm not saying it isn't, maybe it is for you, but if you know that you are juggling a lot of different things, then maybe this isn't the year to go for crazy growth. Maybe this is the year to go for moderate growth, but also focusing on your own well-being and your work-life blend, as it said. As somebody said to me the other day, there's no such thing as a balance, but you can find a blend. So what I just want to say to you then with that is, as I said, be confident, believe in yourself, believe in what you can do, but then don't set yourself a goal that you know is going to make you feel miserable because you have so many other commitments and so many other things that you're looking at that you are really going to struggle to hit it. If you've got homeschooling obligations, if you've got elderly relatives that you are responsible for, if you've got other commitments on your time, if you've got other things or even other focuses you need to make a priority, just recognize that. If you have a house to run, that in itself is a huge time. You have to recognize what you can and can't do. You want your goals to feel energizing, but you don't want them to make you feel stressed out. Think of it as the trajectory. Think about, there's a really great book called Atomic Habits, but they talk a lot about the trajectory of your business or the trajectory of your life. So the idea is it's not about what you are doing each day, but it's sort of how those things add up over time. So if you are growing your business, then you're on the right trajectory. And also, sometimes it's helpful as well to set goals that you can control. So, for example, you could say, I want to grow. Yes, of course, there's lots you can do to grow your sales, but ultimately, in a certain way, your final turnover is something that you have some control over, but to an element, it's going to come down to whether or not people love your products enough to buy them. But there are some goals that you can set that you know you can control. So, for example, one of your goals could be, I would like to send a newsletter every week consistently. So you can set that goal knowing that it's entirely within your own realm of influence. And have a way of measuring success as well. That's another way for you to create a plan that will keep you energized throughout the whole year. So, for example, that's the purpose of them being SMART goals, because they are specific and measurable. So make sure that every month, every 3 months, you go back to those goals and you just check in. Are you on track? And do you have to stick with these plans for the whole year? Absolutely not. If you say to yourself, I'm going to go for 20% growth this year, and then you get through the first quarter and actually you're at 80% growth, then why not recalibrate for the rest of the year? There's no reason to say that you can't. Setting goals for the year can feel scary because you feel like they're rigid and that's it. You've set yourself on a certain path for the next 12 months, but it doesn't have to be like that. Think about this planning process as the opportunity to take stock, really connect with what you want for your business, which is a really powerful thing for you to do. And then put a trajectory, a path in place that you can follow, and then you can check in with yourself throughout the year and make adjustments as necessary. So I would love to know after this episode what you're going to do in terms of planning your year. As I said, if you want to know more about the sales planning, listen into episode 10 of the Resilient Retail Game Plan podcast. And definitely visit resilientretailclub.com/challenge and come and join our 5-day Plan Your Sales Challenge for 2021. We're going to be talking lots more about the planning process. But do hop over and see me on Instagram at Resilient Retail Club. I love it when you tag me. Take a moment, if you can, to rate and review the podcast, especially on iTunes. It's so helpful to me when I am getting the podcast out to more listeners. And of course, if you subscribe, then you will be the first to hear about new episodes. But yes, come over, send me a DM at Resilient Retail Club on Instagram. Tell me what your plans are for your year, how you found this episode, and what your SWOT throws up. If you do one, I'd love to know that. It's a really fun, interesting exercise, and I definitely encourage you to squeeze out a few minutes in your busy life to just reflect back on last year and think about what you want 2021 to hold for your business. If you've enjoyed this week's episode, then I invite you to check out resilientretailclub.com. The Resilient Retail Club is the membership for anyone wanting to start, grow, or scale a profitable product business. No more trawling Google trying to find the answers to your questions or wading through general business advice that speaks mainly to service-based businesses. Whether you're still at the idea stage or you've been going for a while but want to get more focused and organised when it comes to your business, the Resilient Retail Club is the place for you. With a library of courses tailored to creative product businesses, several live sessions a month, and a supportive and active community, the Resilient Retail Club is the perfect membership to help you hit your goals faster. Check it out at resilientretailclub.com.